Okay, I'll call the Limestone County Board of Education meeting to order. Let the record show all board members are present except for Mr. Shoulders. We're going to have a prayer by Mr. Hilliard and a pledge by Mr. Chris.
Shall we pray? Our Father in heaven, thank you for this day that you've given us and the opportunity to come together and discuss our Limestone County School business. We pray that you'll be with all of the employees of our system and all of our students and give them strength and good health during this time. We pray that we will make the best decisions for our students and employees. We ask that you guide us in that. We ask that you watch over, protect us, and forgive us our sins. In Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank y'all. That's a good job for me leading it. Thank y'all.
I think what we should do is let Mr. Chris lead the pledge from now on.
Happy to if we'll eliminate the pause between
right,
one
eventually
nation and
we
under
will
God.
eliminate the pause and everything will be fine. Thank you, Mr. Chris, for trying to hold us accountable. Some of us are just set in our ways. All right, we've got an agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Anybody? No, you can't do that. All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, Mr. Turner. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hilliard offers a second, so we have a motion second on the agenda. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, first item is Ms. Hubbard. You're going to do a budget presentation for us. First public hearing.
Right.
All right.
So we're going to be doing our fiscal year 2021 budget hearing tonight. This is the first of two hearings. We will have another hearing on Monday night board meeting, and then at that time the board will vote on our budget for the next fiscal year. Just like every year, I've got some things I have to read that come from the state. So a complete hard copy of the budget packet has been made available here for public viewing and to the AEA and the board has also received their copy electronically. But if more copies are needed, let us know by leaving your email address with Sherry after the second hearing. The information will be made available on the school system website. But if you're on live stream tonight, if you click on the board agenda and you click on meetings and 5A, the information is also found there. She's uploaded it for you to have to look at. This is the first of two required public budget hearings for FY21. The board will vote on the approval of the budget immediately following the second hearing, which will take place on Monday, September 14th at 6 o'clock. The budget is due to the State Department of Education no later than September 15th. The board welcomes your input and questions not answered tonight should be submitted to me or the superintendent in writing on the form provided in the budget packets. Every effort will be made to address those questions at the second hearing. For the big budget and then for our budget preparation and process, we go through several steps to create this budget. The first is I have Kim Emerson, who is over our local schools, and she works with the local school bookkeepers, and they develop the local school budgets. She gets all those, brings them in-house, puts them all together, balances everything out. We do departmental budgets. So I have a schedule, and we schedule times, and we meet with each department head to go over their allocation and go over their budgets. This year, Dr. Shearhouse volunteered, and he sat in with me on every budget meeting that we had with the departments. It was an all-day thing. We worked through lunch, but I was certainly glad to have his
Good to be there. Thank you.
And all the other staff, because I know how we've been kind of spread thin with COVID, so we had everything was pushed up this year. So I appreciate everybody's help and the time it took to help us develop the budget. As far as staffing needs, we look at each school and they're reviewed considering the yield earnings from the State Department, the special education needs, available federal funding, and projected enrollment for FY21, and staffing numbers are always assigned accordingly. We also have to look at a 2021 capital plan. Dr. Shearhouse has worked on this, and he'll discuss this at the next board meeting and work session on Monday night. The FY 2021 budget will reflect the items in the first year of the 5-year capital plan that are expected to be completed in FY 2021. For the federal budget allocations, they've been received and are included, but there are some that have yet to be confirmed, and they'll be added at a later date. The board has communicated and made a commitment to obtain and maintain a 1-month fund balance, which we have attained and will maintain with the proposed budget. State revenues were based upon allocations, and local revenues were estimated to be relatively flat for next year with maybe a slight increase. Most federal revenue allocations have been received, like I said, and are reflected herein. For FY '21, we have 7 locally funded certified employees budgeted. The state did not include a raise in the budget this year, so there is not a raise included in the salary schedule, which is reflected in our big budget packet. If you go over, I gave everybody, and it's on page 2, we have this big packet. Inside that packet, you'll find a cover sheet, there's a vision and mission statement, there's some budget information, and there's some glossary of terms. There's an allocation report, which is our foundation report that the state gives us each year. That gives us our allocation amounts, and there's a unit breakdown that we receive from them with our teachers and our schools and our ADM, which is our average daily membership of students. There's a budget report, and there are also reports, they're P1 and PA, and these give us our total expenditures per cost center, so you can see per school and per cost center because everything is pulled together on our one budget page. Supplemental information, there's some projected numbers, and the salary schedule is in this booklet. It's in draft form because the board, it's on the agenda tonight to be approved, and there's also a response form. If you have any questions or have any concerns you want to tell us about. And I just didn't include those in this big packet. They're pages. They're laying right there on the corner of the table. So now we're going to go to the PowerPoint. We're going to start looking and breaking the budget down. Let's look at our total proposed budget revenues for FY 2021. If you look at the general fund, we've projected $93,737,082. Of that, $71 million comes from state revenue, but our local revenue we budgeted at $22 million. We decided, I had talked to Emily Ezel, and I talked to some other people about sales tax revenue and where they think that's going to come in. They said even though Toyota Mazda is off the ground, that they still see around a 27% increase in revenue, in sales tax revenue. So I went ahead, and last year we budgeted $27 million, but I went ahead and looked at what we had collected so far, since they're thinking that should hold, and I budgeted 30.9 total local revenue, which includes our sales tax. And if you look on the next page, there's a chart that shows that the majority of our funds come from state funds, then we've got our local and our federal. The next page is our LEA allocation. This comes directly from the sheet that we get to the state, from the state. If you look at 2021, they told us when they met back in the spring that their budget was, they kind of kept us at the same as we were. We didn't really get any increases. We didn't get any raises. And it kind of holds true. So if you look at salaries, we were at $38 million in 2020, and we're at $38.9 million for 2021. It was a $900,000 increase. Fringe benefits were at $14.7 this year. Last year they were at $14.4. Classroom instructional support, teacher material and supplies stayed at $600 a unit. Technology was at $350 a unit. Library enhancement stayed the same per unit, as did professional development and textbooks. And that shows the change. If you look on the next page, you can see that these stay relatively the same too. Our school nurses increased about $22,000. Technology went down a little bit. Transportation operations went down about $15,000. But our transportation fleet renewal increased, and that was because we did the purchase of those 30 buses, and we deferred the payments and went ahead and got them on our fleet plan so we would receive the money before we started making payments, and that's exactly what happened. So our capital purchase was up to $3 million. It increased $42,000. At risk was up $3,000, and our career tech was up about $6,000. In talking about revenue this year, the B1 that's in your packet, you don't have to pull it out, but I'm going to talk about it. When we budgeted our local revenue this year, Dr. Shearhouse has a plan that we kind of start wanting to put back some money for capital projects. So what we did this year was we budgeted $3 million of our local revenue in the capital projects fund, so it can sit there and it can grow. So when we collect our sales tax, $3 million of it will be going to the capital project fund for future projects. And the plan is, if the sales tax continues to hold, then maybe we can do that every year, and then we'll have money that will help us with our building maintenance and improvements and some things we need to build. If we go on to the next page, which is, I kind of jumped ahead of myself, we can look at our general fund and capital projects, our revenue. Our county sales tax, we budgeted that 13.9 million last year, and we knew that was kind of low, based on how it was coming in, and so it's at 16.9 million this year. Our ad valorem tax came in a little better than we budgeted last year, so we went ahead and budgeted that at 3.1 million and 1.6 million, to closely reflect what was actually received. The TVA in lieu of tax money came in, we budgeted 1.6 last year, it's at 1.7 this year. Connections Academy. Connections Academy, we get the 3% minimum, but we get to increase when their enrollment goes up, and we get 3% more. So we'll get $366,911 from them this year. Since they're our pass-through, their pass-through this year is about $12.2 million based on the number of students and the teacher units they would earn, so they'll get roughly $1 million a month that will just pass directly through to them. That's really the big numbers on that page. If you look at the proposed general fund budget, we'll kind of go through here, and the next page kind of breaks it down. Instructional support is $65.5 million. Last year it was 66. Operations, maintenance, and capital is at 7.6. Auxiliary services, which is transportation, is 5.9. Administrative, 2.6. Debt service is at $2,300. That's just some fees we have to pay on some of our debt. And other uses and other fund uses, part of that is our pass-through to CMP that the general fund has to pass through to them. So if you look at the operations and maintenance page, salaries and benefits for them, their overall budget's about $7.6 million. $3 million of that is salaries. Utilities, grounds is $2 million. Building repairs, maintenance, and insurance is $1.2 million, and security is $476,000. There's 12 maintenance employees, and there's 38 custodians, I think, and then it's Steve, and then he has one foreman. Also, this year in operation and maintenance, we budgeted $120,000 in lawn service, so if we needed to go to a lawn service to take care of the lawn at the schools. And we also, to follow through with the plan, we're getting 30 buses this year, and then we're replacing trucks. There's 2 trucks budgeted, 2 maintenance trucks budgeted in here this year. And I did adjust the budget for our utility bills and our maintenance to make sure that closely reflects how much our utility bills actually are. Let's move on to the next one. This is transportation. It's $5.9 million. $5 million of it is salaries and benefits. Fuel, parts, and supplies. We had budgeted $823,000, but since we have the new buses, that's going down, so we're budgeted $651,000. Rusty thought that would be enough. Insurance, $110,000. Software, his school dude, and some of that's $30,000, and his utilities is $16,000. He's got 110 bus drivers and about 21 bus aides, and we also budgeted 2 trucks for transportation as well.
It looks like we're down like 600,000 in what we're spending there.
Overall, based on the new buses, we are down. He's not going to need near, the fuel is down, the parts are down, how much they have to change oil and all that has came down because of those new buses. So
That much? 600,000?
That's not all of it, but that's part of it. So it's close to it because we used to spend, I mean, there were purchase orders coming through every week for just exorbitant amounts of money when we had all those old buses. And since we've got the new buses, I don't see near the purchase orders that I used to see for buses. So it's probably a pretty close assumption to say that 600,000 we have saved probably. And you have to count too that the buses weren't on the road as much either. So we had to try to make a good guess since we were out of school last year when I looked at actual maintenance.
But this budget's for next year, right?
This budget's for next year, so that's
They'll
why
be on this.
we
The
went
roads
ahead
out.
and looked at what we thought it would be, and Rusty took his 19 budget, his 20 expenses, and what we thought it'd be in 21 compared to what we would have with new buses. So we felt like this was a good budget.
Okay.
The next page is child nutrition. Child nutrition's got about 2.7 million in salaries and benefits, and their food and supplies run about $2 million. When we do the CNP pass-through, when they look at all their salaries and benefits, it's the thing that the state gives us where we have to keep the CNP program whole, and they have to keep a minimum of 1 month fund balance inside the CNP program. You have to go ahead and they have to calculate that based on what the actual salaries and benefits are. If you get to the end of the year and they have, or during the year, and you see they have 3 and 4 and 5 months fund balance, then the state now allows you to back that down. You can back your CNP pass-through down, but you have to go ahead and budget it on the front end. So we budgeted about a little over $1 million, just like last year for the pass-through for them. And they have added a maintenance worker this year, and they hope their maintenance worker is going to help save them money to what they were paying out for their purchase service through, I think, Aaron Gas is who they used.
I don't remember. Is there I think the the food program that we're doing now, where we're feeding kids every day, there's some money that we get. Does that somehow get into their food and supplies or not? 'Cause I think there was a benefit for us doing that, right?
There's a benefit. The kids don't pay, but they still get their reimbursements back like they would receive.
Okay.
And it's the free reimbursement, which is the higher level, so it's a benefit for us
Benefit for us.
to do that.
Okay, the next page is.
I have
oh,
one
I'm
question
sorry.
about the maintenance. I recall back a few years ago, I don't think how long it's been, that we put a maintenance worker in child nutrition. Do we not have one in there? And there's 66 workers. Are one of those a maintenance person?
One of those was not a maintenance worker.
She does have someone that helps her with her equipment, fixes her
Now.
equipment,
She
yes.
has one now.
Is that what you're talking about?
He came to work several months ago.
I,
She was
I
having-
think that person went back to
I
the
think they went
maintenance
back to the
crew
company.
right when I first got on the board, Earl, I think.
You mean,
They-
you mean went back to the
Yeah,
systems?
like it
I
was,
remember we
We
approved.
budgeted
we just didn't
for-
replace someone who went to another job, I think is what we did.
I know
But,
that
but
was-
she does have a person in her department that fixes equipment for her currently.
And that's not this person.
It's a
She already has
dedicated
Yes, no, that's this
CMP
person.
That's this
He's
person.
counting- This
Okay,
is
yeah.
counting current people.
Oh, I thought you said we was hiring a new.
No,
person.
we
I
had
misunderstood.
already
Okay.
hired him.
Okay.
He was
She hired
hired
a
3 or 4
person
months
back
ago,
before my
probably
time.
3 or 4 months ago. He was hired.
And she had been looking for somebody after she lost the last one, when she was having to contract to work out. It had just taken her a while to find one, which was before me. If you look at our general administrative budget, it's about 2.6 million. Superintendent's budget and staff, the staff is 1 million. Finance is like 806,000. Board management is 164,000, but of that, we budget $100,000 for legal fees, to cover any legal fees of the district.
Is that 64,000 manage us? Because I don't know where that,
164,000.
well, no, the
It
100
manages
is
all.
legal.
100 of that.
Oh,
is
it's
legal.
included,
I'm sorry.
Uh-huh, the legal's included in that.
What's the increase in general administrative? Seems to be $300,000 increase. Where would that be?
I would have to go back and analyze that one. I looked at all of them, but I didn't get to that one to look at it. I know it'd be salaries for the steps and salaries. I know we budgeted some money. We've got some printers that we need to replace as far as on the finance side. So we're gonna have to replace some of that. And some of the programs and like some of the servers that have to be updated for finance. And, one of the programs that they use on, the HR side. So there's several programs like that we have to make sure we budget. And I went up a little bit on the board management side. It was a little bit less last year than it is this year. But I wanted to make sure we had it covered. The next page is our debt service page. This year it's gonna take $7 million to service our debt. And at the end of FY '21, our debt will be at $68.7 million. We will have reduced it to that. Last year, our debt service was $6.7 million. And our special revenue fund, I know we've worked hard. We've got the CARES Act money has been budgeted. I know we say a lot of stuff's being paid for by the CARES Act. It's being paid for by GEARS, and it's being paid for by remote learners and the health and wellness. So, Allison in her office is watching all that closely because it's federal programs to make sure that it goes through correctly. The other thing I was gonna talk to you about was the ETS advancement in technology money that we got, in 2020 that we spend in 2021. We got $2.5 million of that. We can choose to spend that in different categories. Part of it we always use for our sewer maintenance is $240,000 a year. Our building insurance is $300,000. And, this is where, transportation, you can do fuel, parts, and insurance through here, and we've got that budgeted in here. And, the computer, our technology equipment, some switches and things that needed to be replaced. We put $380,000 in there. Dr. Shearhouse has talked to y'all, I think, about lock-in systems and keys for the doors, and that's $500,000. Security services are $356,000, and then our safe defend is $23,000. The one thing about this ETS and advancement money, that when you do this like little preliminary budget for this, if things change and your needs change, then all we have to do is send an email. So if something came up that needed to be spent, something happened to 10 servers and we needed to use this money to replace servers or something like that, Dr. Shearhouse we could send an email to the state and they could approve any change for that.
But that amount of money, though, is not all of it, right? That's only half?
The 2.5 for this, that's all of this money for the year.
So this coming year, we'll only get half, right? And then they'll give us half, or?
They're supposed to give it to us by September 30th. We're supposed to get the $2.5 million.
So 2.5 is the total we were getting. For some reason, I had in my mind we were getting 5.
We were getting 5.
That's what I thought.
But it reduced, it's 2.5 is what we ended up, was our allocation. It's the last thing I got.
So why do you think we thought 5, Ronald?
I think that was the original number, and then
Yeah,
whenever
did
the
something
COVID
happen?
stuff started and they
COVID
went back
started,
into
they
session, they
reduced it and
cut
came
everything in
back,
half.
and When they came out and they sent out the list of all the counties, we were at 2.5 million. And
At
they
the-
said, they could have gave us none, but they said they went ahead and gave everybody.
But I thought they still only gave out half, and they were going to look after this, after the pandemic's over in January, looking at releasing the other half. You're saying, for a fact, that's the total allocation we're getting for the whole year? Because I thought that's what they told us in that meeting, Ron, that, we would get about half initially. They weren't going to give it all to us. We were going to hold back, and then they were going to release the other half on into the year.
And the last they told me, this is what we got. They may change their mind in January and come back out with something else. And if they do, we'll gladly allocate it and we'll take it. But for right now, I know this is all we're going to get.
Well, help me understand what it is. I guess there's one thing to take a gift from somebody. There's another thing to take the money that's mine. And when I say mine, I mean the district. So if this is not a gift from someone. This is money allocated to us that we're supposed to get,
it's the
correct?
Advancement in Technology Fund, and they can choose how they allocate that money and what they do. And they look at it each year from the best I understand and see how much it's grown and see how much is in there to see how much they can allocate to each school district and to each person that gets a share. So I think they can also, not 100%, I think they can also, if they need money for their budget and certain things, they can go into that fund, and it can also help the state if they need it. And I may be speaking off the cuff and need to research that a little more.
Well,
But when they did everything they said, instead of taking, it's not getting any allocations, we got the 2.5 million.
Okay.
And hopefully they'll come back and give us some more, give us the rest of it.
Well, and that was, when did we go? We were down there in,
It's December. It's the December meeting where
they were
we meet with that
projecting
guy.
what we were going to get, and
Yeah.
okay. It's something.
It's excess. It's
I
excess.
thought it was excess in the rainy day
Day fund.
fund.
And then they divide it 2/3, 1/3 with secondary education and us, and
And
then
the-
you divide it by ADM from
Yep.
there. It's a manipulated number. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a formula.
Yeah.
I think they were able to add some additional funds to that, money to that this year, because at the superintendent's meeting the other day, they talked about $150 million, and I think that was that fund. But whether or not we'll get that, for this year, because the 2.5 is what we've seen as far as the budgeted item, but whether or not next year they can do more,
Yeah.
based on them putting some more money into that
And I
account.
forget the sequence of when they went back into session, but that was what was excess when we were there in December, and then, of course, all this happens in March or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
And they did an abbreviated session, and then, so I don't, all right. So we're
Somewhere
not,
we lost half of it.
so 2.5, though, you guys have already got that allocated.
Yes.
So none of that'll go toward paying down debt.
This can't go towards paying down
Gotcha,
debt.
okay.
These funds cannot. Now,
Okay.
the bond fund, the 13.1 bond issue they're talking about, that can go towards paying down debt if we so chose, if y'all voted to do that. But not this money. They preach no, 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 so.
Okay.
So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions.
What's the net result of our general fund budget next year?
The net result of our general fund budget next year is we're projected to be at 29 million in the general fund and have that extra 3 million in the capital projects fund. So you're looking at a 1 month fund balance of being around 7 million, and we should be right around four months by the
So-
end of the fiscal year.
So the budget just for next year is showing a surplus of, one document says 8.3 million and one document says 9.9 million. The B1A, Exhibit B, or is that an I? I don't know if that's an I or a 1.
The B1A, it's 9.9 is the excess.
Okay, that's the one that's digital. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Again, we'll have this presented to us again, so, we can, if we've got comments or questions or desires in one direction or the other, it would be between now and Monday when we can shoot some emails, make some phone calls.
No,
and
no,
then-
no, Ronald, I told you wrong. This was the latest one. The 8.3 million is correct because we had to add the CNP pass-through to it. So when I added the CNP pass-through to it, it took it down to 8.3. So the digital copy, this one is the correct.
Does that hold true for all the documents? The paper copies are more recent than the digital copies, or?
Just today happened, it just happened to work that way, yes.
Okay.
Because I realized that when I was going back through everything that I didn't have my CMP pass-through. I had it in CMP, but I didn't have it on the general fund side, so I had to adjust it.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Ms. Hubbard, thank you. We'll look forward to hearing the second version of this on Monday. Mr. Rouse, you got a report for us?
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you to Ms. Hubbard for her work on the budget as well. I know she's been working very hard the last couple of weeks on making sure we received all the appropriate documents and so forth. And it's a lot to do, so we certainly appreciate your time, Kim, and working on that. The under superintendent's report, just want to mention that as I start out, of course, here in Limestone as superintendent, it's very important for me to get a temperature check of the district, and through getting, I've talked to a lot of people, I've talked to board members, I've talked to principals, talked to a lot of folks in the school district, but it's really important that I get some feedback from other folks in the district. And so what I'm doing is going to present a survey to our certified staff members first, our certified teachers, to get some feedback about the district, to get some feedback about each individual school that they belong to, because I think it's very important, as I move forward, that I have a good understanding of where we are as a school district. And, I want to survey everyone in the district, and I hope to do that at some point. But just to start, we're going to do certified staff members first, and then later we'll look at doing some more. And this will be a monthly type survey, real quick survey. Won't take them much time because everyone has survey fatigue, as you know. But it will provide some information for me about areas such as, job satisfaction, for example, or relationship with the manager or principal in their school. So just information from teachers that I think will help as we move forward. We talk about planning for the future, and I think when you get that feedback from teachers, that'll kind of help us understand what their needs are, what their concerns are. I always say nothing takes the place of a great teacher in the classroom, and certainly Limestone County, we really need to attract the best teachers that we possibly can for this school district, and I think we need to get feedback from them. So that's what we're doing. Allison helped me out with some funding from Title II, and so some leftover funds that were available so I could do this, and I think it will provide some good information that you'll be able to see along the way as well as far as the school district. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. All right. Board members, we have a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, Mr. Glaze. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Winter. Any,
I need to abstain from A1,
okay.
board meeting minutes, because I was not here at that minute.
Is that the, okay. All right. Okay. Ms. Sherry, make a note. All right. No other questions? All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 7 is discussion and approval of personnel action items. Do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hilliard makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments regarding the personnel action? All right, here.
We can't pull one out.
We could pull one out, but it would be unfair to the employee that we're referring to, so we're just going to let this slide without making too much to do over it. So anyway, no other questions or comments. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 8 is discussion and approval of substitute pay increase for the following positions. We're going to start this on September the 1st. It's certified teacher, non-certified teacher, cafeteria worker, bookkeeper, secretary, custodian, instructional assistant, technical assistant, counselor clerk. Also includes a pay increase or a pay rate increase for the instructional assistant for extra duties and the 21st century instructional aide, and it's retroactive till September the 1st. So this is what was discussed at the last meeting, and I think we kind of came to a consensus on what our new pay rate will be for sub-pay. And so do I have a motion to approve item 8?
So moved.
Mr. Glaze offers a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Young offers a second. Here, any questions or comments? All right, here none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 9 is discussion approval of the renewal of the Intrado School Messenger Notification Service Contract at a cost of $15,102. It's paid for with the general fund. It's an annual budgeted item. Do I have a motion to approve item 9?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Winter makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Glaze. Any questions or comments?
And what's the cost in relation to what it was last year?
Dr. Lewis, do you know the cost? Is that a,
I do not have that information.
anybody, Ms. Hubbard?
I'll look it up in the.
Okay. It does bring we got a motion a second. So we've, Dr. Lewis, at what point, there was some software we were going to do that kind of evaluated the software we used and determined usage. Is that still being done? I don't know how that changes with virtual school now because we're probably using some things that we weren't planning on using. So can you kind of, I know it's not part of this item, but it is relevant. Mr. Chris is asking the cost, and I'm sure next would be, are we using it and we're getting our benefit from it? So when will that report come to us?
Yes, sir. Well, unfortunately, because of COVID, we've had to put that on the back burner with our virtual school. But as far as the school messenger expense, that's a communication.
Something different than an okay.
That's not
When you say it was put on the back burner, do you mean we didn't purchase it or we're not utilizing it yet and
We have purchased it and we have utilized it, but I'm still trying to get all the information.
I got you.
together
Okay. All right. Fine.
to give,
I did. Didn't mean to run those two together. So this is not really instructional software. It's,
That's our communication device. This is the robocalls.
okay, my apologies.
Can I say one thing, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? One of the things we've talked about as far as communications is, we approved the Remind, which is a texting system that I think we bought that with CARES funding for this year. This is another way, of course, voice messages go out to our stakeholders. And then also we want to send emails out to our stakeholders as well. So it's kind of a three-prong approach to communicating. And I think this is the most important thing we need to do is communicate with our parents and let them know what's going on. And we want really all three forms of communication to make sure everyone gets the information that they need. And that's a part of what we're paying for here.
I started a discussion by asking about the cost, and I just want to be clear. I'm okay with what we're buying, but I want to know what's happening to the budget. So every time we put annual budgeted item, I want to know what it was last year to know whether we're losing money in relation to the budget or making money in relation to the budget. Thank you.
And I don't know how much trouble that would be, Ms. Hubbard, but it sounds like a reasonable request. It may be too much. I don't know, but that would, I see what you're saying, because we do the budget in September, and this may be an item we're buying in February, and with everything else, I mean, the cost may have changed, and it,
Well, to some degree, when it's the annual budgeted item, I think, well, that's something we need, that's something we use.
correct,
I think I should vote for it, and then, but I don't know if I'm spending more or less.
right?
I'll start looking, the only thing that would slow me down if it was something at the very last minute that I couldn't pull and I have to pull an email.
Well, we don't ever add
We-
things at the last minute, so
Exactly.
you don't have to
You'll
worry
be
about that.
okay with that.
It's just a little sarcasm. It's all in fun. Everything's good. All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, item carries. Item 11 is discussion approval, item 10 is discussion approval of the purchase of Inside Algebra and Trans Math Levels 1, 2, and 3 from Voyager Sopris as a math intervention for secondary students at a cost of $69,190, and the funding source is the CARES Act. Do I have a motion to approve item 10?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Winter makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Young offers a second. Do I have any comments or questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 11 is discussion approval of purchase of 30 buses using the cooperative program bid price as part of the system's current board-approved bus purchasing plan. $92,924 for 72 passenger buses and $97,417 for 60 passenger special needs buses. This is coming from the fleet renewal funds. Do I have a motion to approve item 11?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hilliard makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Chris offers a second. Any questions or comments?
When do we get them?
Last year when we ordered them, we got them in February, first of February.
So this will be that same thing. We order them now, and then we'll start paying on them when we get the fleet renewal.
Go ahead and pull the purchase order, we're gonna purchase them, and then they go ahead and the process starts, so they go on our fleet renewal plan for the next year. And then we start working on the financing, and when the financing is secure, they have the buses ordered, and
Did we tentatively agree to do this 4 times, 4 years of 30 buses? Is that what it was?
I was fixing to,
When we talked to Rusty about it, it was 30, 30, 10, and 10, and then we'll be back on after this 30, we should be able to be on, I think he said it was either 10 or 11.
For next year, it's 10 or 11.
and it keeps them on
What
that 10
percentage
year
does
where
that
they
give
roll
us
off,
of
right?
buses that are under 10 years old?
I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's a high. We're in pretty good shape after this 30 purchase.
Yeah.
We're in
'Cause
really
we
good
just
shape.
purchased 30, well, probably this year, right?
We got them in.
Okay, so it'd be 60,
In
yeah.
January when he went, they went down there. and
I got you, okay.
So we'll do this 30, and then 10, 11, or 12, it's somewhere in there.
I do think it drops off, Mr. Chris, in that third year
Okay.
significantly, and then
We
Then
used to be on
40.
10-year rotation, and then we stopped, and so is this catching us up back to where we
That 30
would have
caught us
been?
back up,
Okay.
This is putting us back in the rotation we need to be to stay in
Yeah,
fleet renewal.
that's what we
just
want.
Roll like 10 or 11 off
Right.
every year. And we shouldn't, if everything holds, we shouldn't have to go back to doing the 30 and 30, that many buses at a time.
good. It was just play catch up.
Do they have air conditioners?
Yes.
They do.
Just letting you know. They have 'em.
Ooh, okay.
They-
They would have air conditioning.
Well, we ain't gonna get into that. Okay, all right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 12 is discussion approval of Elmont High School's agreement with the Introdo for purchase of school messenger app at a cost of $1,700 using the school's Title I parent engagement funds. It's no cost to this board. Do I have a motion to approve item 12?
I'll offer.
Mr. Christ offers a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All right, Mr. Young offers a second. Do I have any questions or comments?
Yeah, why is this not part of NAD?
And the only question I can say is that it's the app, but I don't know if that's the difference. But
It is, it's a specific feature that's kind of an add-on to what the district already provides, but where they do have a specific app on their phone that's specific just to that.
So the rest of the district will get emails or voicemail, but won't have the app option unless they pay for it.
right, that's the difference.
Okay.
They can actually send out documents, things like that, with Title I that parents are supposed to receive, where typically they're sent out paper versions, but they can actually send it out through this app.
And that's why Title I can pay for it? Okay.
Does the app have the capability of translating?
Remind does, which
Something
is
does.
yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Remind has a translator on it.
Okay.
I'm
If my
not sure
wife's
about
watching,
that.
I'll get a text in a minute. Tell me what that is.
Any other questions you have answered? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 13 is discussion approval of memorandum of agreement between the Alabama State Department of Education and the Limestone County Board for an additional category for allowable expense as part of the Education, Health, and Wellness Grant. Do I have a motion to approve item 13?
I'll motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Winter. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll
but
off-
no, go
okay.
ahead.
Well, I was going to offer the second, and then are there questions and comments? Mr. Chris has a comment or a
Just
question.
why did we need to approve this? The amendment requires the superintendent to sign the memorandum of agreement, thus requiring board approval.
They just added a new category, which was another category for expenditures, and according to our board, the School Board Association, before the superintendent can sign anything, a memorandum of agreement, they said that's the same as a contract. Sherry, am I stating that?
Does anybody know what the other six categories are?
The other six categories, y'all approved those on the last, on that specific fund source of the things that it can be spent on. So, the Education, Health, and Wellness Grant is specifically, it was able to be used to make the sick rooms and the well rooms for the nurses. It can buy nurse supplies, so they're able to stock their rooms. It could also pay for certain things for the buses that dealt with sanitation for the buses, so we bought 10 Ryobi backpack sprayers that they could use specifically for the buses. Number 7 just added another category of expenses, which didn't really affect our budget, but we still have to have it signed and sent to the State Department before we get reimbursed for any of our expenses.
And that stuff that's added is basically COVID stuff? Or at least that's what it says in this
Yes.
paragraph? Okay. All right. I'm sure I
Each one of the
hope for it
different
and
grant
hush.
funds has things that are allowable expenses, and originally there was only 6 categories of expenses, and this made a 7th category.
Okay. All right. Any other, does that answer your question, sir? All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 14 is discussion approval of memorandum of agreement between the Alabama Department of Education and Limestone County Board for payment of reading specialist travel expenditures. Do I have a motion to approve item 14?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Winter makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a second. Mr. Young, any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 15 is discussion approval of the 2020-2021 salary schedule. Do I have a motion to approve item 15?
I'll offer.
Mr. Young offers a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Glaze offers a second. I did call Ms. Hubbard, and I'll let her address this, but we just wanted to make sure, much like you talked about with the budget, we want to know, are there changes in this salary schedule that are, different, or, and certain job got changed and moved up or down, and so would you please kind of?
Let's talk about the few things that we did change.
All right.
Okay? If you look at the salary schedule, if you look on page 6 and 7, we added social workers. We needed a salary schedule for a social worker.
Okay.
And once we looked, it was agreed that could also be paid off the certified teacher salary schedule like some of our other positions. So at the bottom of that page where we say, we pay teachers, pre-K, career technical, special ed, driver's ed consulting, psychologists, technology facilitators, blah, 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 and we added and social workers. So social workers will be paid off of these salary schedules. As far as each salary schedule, let me go back and talk about that. The state did not mandate a raise this year. So if you go back and you look at last year's salary schedule, the numbers on the salary schedule pages are gonna be the same because there was no raise. So the only thing that will happen this year for somebody is if they have another year of service and they move up a step. Okay, so there is no increase to any of the salary schedules this year. So if you flipped on through the salary schedules and you got to page 13, wait, that's page 12. Gotta go back to page 12, that's where supplements start. Earlier in the year, you guys approved athletic director for the district for $2,500 on page 12. That was added to the top of that page. And at the bottom of that page, there used to be a blurb about 12-month employees and supplements. And you guys voted to remove that at the bottom of the page, so I took that off. And if you flip on through, nothing else changed until what you guys just voted on tonight. It's in the back, it's the last 2 pages. And if you look on page 28, certified teacher went to $75 a day. The non-certified subs went to $65. And then it used to say lunchroom worker, we changed it to cafeteria worker. Cafeteria worker, bookkeeper, secretary, we changed janitor to custodian, 65, instructional assistant 65, technical assistant 65, counselor clerk 65, so they all line up. The one thing I had at the bottom for retired personnel, the number changes every year. The state says how much you can make. So in 2020, you could make $32,000. In 19, it was $31,000. So that changed to $32,000. They've not released the number for 2021 yet, and so it always has TBD to be determined. So we won't know that till later. I checked the website the other day; it's still not posted. And if you look on the next page, the rate for the instructional assistant for 21st century and additional pay rates for extra duties was changed to $15 on each of those. And those are the only changes to the salary schedule this year. Except for the dates at the top that say commission.
All right, good. All right, any other questions? Ms. Daly, does this change your mind, because you can only make $32,000? I didn't know if you wanted, okay, you're good with that. All right, good. All right, no other questions. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.